well and be brilliant. Today, more than ever, humanity needs you.
I don't know what to say. I actually am lost for words.
You don't have a right to not be vulnerable and authentic. Your number one currency in life is to have an impact on someone else.
Like, you have blown me away to the other side of the world, and I don't know how I'm going to get back.
Because if you lead with your humanity, you elevate theirs.
I am so grateful that the universe connected me with you, because this has been a game changer for me.
If you lead a doubt-filled life, you'll lead a bound-up life. Live a doubtless life and you'll lead a boundless life.
This has just been the most extraordinary experience of my entire life.
Leadership is in the form of your brand, and in today's brand, it's your vulnerability, your ability to be authentic, your ability to be seen.
Because you're just a game changer. I've just never met anyone like you.
Your ability, as I say, to live your eulogy, not wait for someone to mourn you after you've gone.
And boom!
Boom!
We are live, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the live experience with Stephen DeSade, Inspiring Insights with Stephen DeSade. I'm Peter Clark, Red TV. Stephen, how are you today, my friend?
It's the favorite part of my week, the boom. It's the highlight of my week. Boom!
I don't
Hi,
know
everyone.
I don't know where that came from. It's just a great way to let people know we're here. All that.
It certainly announces that we're live. Yes, boom. Boom is the new live. Boom is the new live.
So listen, my friend, we got such a cool show today. I'm so excited about this show because, first of all, you got some amazing guests, and I'm excited to bring them on for you in a few minutes here. But man, anytime you mention soul, I mean, I'm in. Anything about soul, and then you start adding words like shifter or soul shifter. But I just think this is such an important conversation today in the world. We're just in a really strange place, and we're all just trying to adapt, and that's what humans do. But things to do with the soul applies to our lives. It applies to our business. It applies to our outlook on life. It's all those things. So I have a funny feeling there's going to be some amazing things being covered today. So tell us here. I'm going to bring out the slides here today, and you talk to us a little bit about let me add that to the stream and get rid of that right there, and tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
The people that have become on the show are not based on how many followers they've got, how much reach or how much impact they can have. Larry, Judy, Randy, they were either invited by someone else who's a soul shifter, and I'll explain that as we go through the show, or in Larry's case, they just wrote something that had an impact on me. And at that time, like Doug last week, Larry and I weren't even first connections on LinkedIn, to use that. I am looking for people who are soul warriors in the first instance, meaning that they're fighting to find or to fighting their soul or fighting to embrace it. And when we find them, we turn them and convert them into DeSade soul shifters. People that have actually connected with their soul and they now want to move and shift someone else's based on what they found. And that's what Soul Shifters is all about. And as I always do with the definitions of these monologues, is I go into the two words and define them. So soul is the emotional part of being human, and a shifter is to transfer from one to another. So just like the beautiful little girl and boy there, soul shifters, it's to transfer to others the emotion of being human. And there's 5 ways of doing this.
Fantastic.
Step 1 is character. You've got to share and anchor into your principles and bathe them in your values and not be uncomfortable in showing up every day, anchored in principle, bathed in values, number 1. Number 2 is your courage. You've got to have laser focus with relentless resolve in the context of the courage for you to dance through your life, because it's the only way you can activate your soul.
I love courage, by the way. Sorry, I had to jump. That's one of my favorite words.
I know. Step 3 is to commit. You've got to share, intending to enlighten for others' growth. Every single thing Peter and I do is to enlighten your growth, and we're committed to that in the context of this show and everything else we both collectively do and then separately do. Step 4 is catastrophe. You've got to share with open vulnerability the brutal truth of your wins, but also your losses. It's absolutely critical that you're open and vulnerable with brutal truth about some of the things that haven't gone your way in life. And then finally, step 5 is to communicate with openness that has absolutely no bounds. Now, obviously, there's a bounds in terms of the respect of some of the personal and privacy things. I understand that. But step 5 of a soul shifter is to communicate with an openness that knows no bounds, because your soul knows no bounds. When 9/11 happens, sadly, when the tsunami happened, when what's happening in COVID and around the world right now, our openness has no bounds in the soulfulness of how hearts and souls are being broken by what's happening in the world right now. And we need to take the example of COVID when we finally overcome it. We need to take the example of COVID to openly communicate from our soul for the rest of humanity's existence. Because I'm not quite sure COVID came along to remind us that we're all as one. Hey. So, soul shifters, anchored in the principled values with laser-focused resolve for the enlightened growth of others, with the brutal truth of open vulnerability in an openness that knows no bounds. That is the dialect and dialogue when you express from your soul.
Wow, that is oh my. Well, you already know you got me at courage. I mean, all that stuff. But I mean, truth, vulnerability, openness, no bounds. I mean, there's so much, and like you said, so much going on in the world today. I mean, even today there was it. I don't want to timestamp this thing but something, really tragic happened in the world today as well. And so we're all really super sensitive to this. And you're right, our souls can pick up on that energy, and it just changes how we are. And anything again that can enlighten us and make us grow and all that kind of stuff, it can only be good. Can only be
exactly. Good. And it all sounds like very polished rhetoric, and it all sounds like very utopia. But why is it that when something like a tsunami, like COVID, like 9/11, why is it that something like that has to trigger our soul of compassion? Why don't we just find a way to actually have compassion as our companion?
Yeah, right. Why isn't it just great question. We're going to dig into that, everybody. Yes. We're going to dig into that. We have some amazing guests. So let's just jump to the guests, because again, I could throw out one sentence to you and it becomes a workshop.
No.
And that's a kind statement, by the way, just so you know.
No, I get it, but I'm told by you and many others, don't do that. So I won't.
No, not do that.
Not yet.
Not yet. So let's bring in I'm going to bring in randomly. Again, we got 3 guests here, and I just wanted to let everyone know, I get told probably or informed maybe a day before. I try not to do too much digging, just so you know, Stephen. I don't know if you know this or not, but I try not to do too much digging into what everyone's about, because then I don't want to have any preconceptions about anything. So when we bring somebody in, I really don't know what they're going to ask, and I kind of don't know what they do and all that stuff, just so that we're trying to keep it as authentic as possible. So Larry, are you ready, Larry? Are you going to come on with us? Here we go. We got Larry. How are you, my friend? Oh, I got to put you back this way. Step over the other way. Can you come in front of us? There you go. Just come over a little bit more.
There we go.
How's that? How are you, Larry?
I'm great. How are you, Stephen?
I'm well. Thank you. I was walking through Sydney a couple of Fridays ago, and I saw something from Larry, and I was going from one thing to another, and I was down not far from the Opera House, Larry. So I literally just sent Larry a short little video that transcribed on an app I've got, and here we are. So thank you, Larry. Thank you for actually saying something that activated my soul to invite you onto this. So well done, sir.
Fantastic, Larry. I'm going to throw it back.
I'm only returning the favor. You do that for all of us regularly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're whereabouts are you?
Outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in Marietta.
Okay, cool. I know some folks down in Peachtree City and Newman and all those types of places in Georgia.
Sure.
What can we chat about today, Larry?
Well, I have a question for you, actually. I view you as kind of a global ambassador for passion, inspiration, brilliance. And that's really why we follow you, and in a certain sense, why we're here today. And there's a very famous quotation that was attributed to Thomas Edison.
Oh, my Lord, we're in good company now. Okay.
And most of you will be familiar with it. In his quotation, he was asked to define the keys to genius, which, of course, is a synonym for a word you use quite regularly, brilliance. And he said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I wanted to get your reaction to that.
Wow. I'm a bit flattered. Thomas Edison, goodness me. We as soon as you said that, we need to, what's that comment? Drop the mic. Wow. Well, one of the things that resonates with me is I always say that at the point of conception, you're unique. Every one of us is. And I jokingly sometimes say that if you wanted to eradicate the human race, put the doubts and the self-doubts, the lack of awareness in a 30-year-old man and woman, and transfer that back to the point of conception where the ladies send the one egg and we boys send all the little swimmers at conception. If you put the doubts of a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, male or female, into the process of conception, we'd all stop, because we arrive into this world as unique. So to me, uniqueness is a certain level of genius. And then what happens as we traverse down the road of life, peer group pressures, innuendos, assumptions, opinion, my big one, we start wrapping ourselves, and as my mentor, who is also in Georgia, we start wrapping ourselves, instead of like a butterfly breaking out of a cocoon, human beings seem to arrive as a butterfly, and then we start wrapping ourselves in the cocoon of opinion, in the cocoon of someone else's advice, in the cocoon of, am I good enough, in the cocoon of a lack of self-awareness, a lack of self-acceptance, a lack of self-approval, the things I talked about last week. And our genius gets eradicated because we've outsourced our identity to someone else's opinion of us. So to me, genius is very much the origins of what you are. And it's very similar to what I said in the opening of the show. What are you courageous about? What are you openly vulnerable about? Because if you think of the geniuses of the world, 1% of their genius is their academia. 99% of the genius is their decision to be totally focused on what I call having a definitiveness of purpose regardless of the cost. And for me, it's not too many people, I suppose, in many ways, we look at the word genius and immediately, even my reaction to Thomas Edison and things, those types of people, we immediately assume a sense of secondary, and even I did it when you said Thomas Edison, oh, wow, I better be on my toes to try and do this one. Genius is the self-awareness of your ability to fulfill what your dreams are. That's all it is. But for most people, genius is an academic point of view. Genius is a philosophical point of view. Genius is the ability to be able to have a dialogue or a rhetoric or an oratory. That defines your genius. No, it doesn't. All that defines is your ability to communicate the intention of what you're going to do to serve someone else. Because the nature of the human spirit is to serve others. Genius is your ability to serve others based on what you believe to be true for yourself. And I spoke a few shows back with a gentleman by the name of Kevin Ward, also from the States. And I said to Kevin, I said, all experience is all wisdom is, and all genius is your absorbed experience of living your truth. So when we say 1%, what was the quote again? It was 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. For me, fantastic quote, but for me, perspiration is either perspiration for effort to prove something or perspiration for a desire to achieve what's in your soul. And for a lot of people, and you kindly said some very complimentary things of me, and I appreciate it, to a lot of people, they say nice complimentary things of me, and all I'm doing is I am completely and utterly obsessed with elevating the humanity of another person. So when you say those kind things to me, of course, my ego enjoys it momentarily, and then I'm straight away going, no, Larry, genius is your ability to walk down the street and be an example of what you believe to be true. Genius is not Larry becoming a global influencer and some of those nice things you said, because from my point of view, I'm not interested in being a global influencer. I'm interested in making Larry, Randy, and Judy believe in themselves. That's my genius. My genius is making sure you haven't forgotten yours.
Gosh, that's fantastic. Larry, does that make sense? That makes so much sense to me, but I understand the question as well. Like, I always wonder, can I be, can you really just, do you need inspiration to be a genius? Can you just really work this thing out with 99% effort? And I don't know. I don't know myself, but I love the idea of your question, because it's making us all think, like, what kind of balance do I need? Is it 99-1? Is it 80-20? What is it?
Wow.
because I certainly believe that you can have a lot of inspiration, and if you don't do any work, it really won't matter, that kind of thing. Stephen, I see you writing some stuff down here.
Yeah, I just going down into a bit more detail. As far as I'm concerned, I always say this quite often. People are inspired to think, but I want people to be motivated to act. It's very easy to watch what I call tactical learning. It's like turn an inspiring video on YouTube on, and it will actually get you to think in the moment. That's really good. And then you switch it off and go off. Motivated to act is David Breyer's book, Brand Intervention. I bought David's book and spent the weekend and turned his 58-page book into about 100 pages of notes. Because I'm motivated to act, because the only way that I can activate people is if I can do three things. Have a vocab, and I'm not going to try and spell all these words because I'll die. Have a vocab that actually motivates people. Have a framework that inspires people, and then have a community that actually gets people motivated, inspired, and that's what Soul Shifters is. I have a vocabulary that actually activates people to be inspired and to be motivated. I put frameworks together, which is why you constantly see me doing this in 1, 2, 3, and 5, and all those types of things. I have a framework that my inspired vocabulary gets people to start processing in their own mind. And then I have a community of people that are together, are actually what we call the hashtag the Sede Soul Shifters. That community is people being inspired and motivated together, because the genius of the human race is in the collective of our souls. If you think of every genius is a genius because of how they activated and changed the world.
Oh, that is fantastic. Listen, Larry, that is listen, you can never get enough of that quote, for starters. I mean, right? I mean, that quote just makes so much sense. And I hope that resonated with you. Larry, stick around till the end of the show. We want you to stick in the green room with us. Appreciate your question. We're going to go on to the next guest, but stick around, would you, my friend?
Excellent. Thank you again.
Awesome.
Thanks, Larry.
That was great, Stephen. Yeah, like I said, you can have inspiration, man, but if you don't work at something, and the other way around, I mean, how hard will you work at something if you don't have inspiration? So it's
you need to. But what that last little piece that I gave is that I'm very conscious of the fact that so many people spend so much time trying to think through a quote. I'm trying to create a vocabulary around it. I'm trying to create a framework around it. I'm trying to create a community, because human beings don't like doing things in isolation, and COVID-19 is proof. Yeah. So with the last piece that I said, the quote is amazing and I love it. But how do you actually communicate that part of those soul shifters? How do you actually create a framework and a structure around that? And then how do you get a community of people who are bought into your framework and are inspired by your vocabulary? And you can do that as a parent sitting at the dinner table to your children. You can be that as a pastor in a church. You can be that as someone who's running a hobby. You can be that as a fitness trainer in a park, training people to have the discipline to actually make their body better than this one, for example. So the end result is, if you want to inspire and motivate people, have a vocabulary, have a framework, and have a community that will actually embed into it.
Oh, that's brilliant. I saw what you wrote down there. I'm screen capturing that in a little bit. Okay, let's go on to our next guest. Judy. Are you ready, Judy? I'm going to throw Judy on because she is awesome. She is from Connecticut. I learned how to spell Connecticut today. Now, everyone, I knew how to spell Connecticut. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure it was right. Hi, Judy. How are you?
Very well, Peter, Stephen. Thank you very much to both of you for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you for coming on and joining us. Now, you're in Connecticut and you're a realtor, correct?
I am a realtor, and I am also one that just wants to help and be there for others. That is my sole purpose in this life. I had in my past, my son getting very, what you said, Stephen, is to communicate through catastrophic times. Well, my son was molested as a child by his biological father. So I was the one that, and I know you do not like the word fight, but I did do what I needed to do and stand up tall with the my community standing behind me, which was my mom and my husband, now my who adopted my son afterwards. My question to you as an empathetic person and one that really takes on pain of another person, how do I go about knowing my soul is so open and raw to help others? What can I do not to make myself so tired and exhausted from other people's pain?
Pete, go to the screen for a sec. The very first thing to do is replace the word fight with a resolve to a cause. And hopefully that's the correct spelling of all those words. When you think of fight, and you can see my hands on the screen, when you think of fight, you're doing this. As soon as you're doing this, there's a strain that goes all the way up your body. And I'm sure if Graham, my great friend who's watching, hey buddy, who's a nurse and knows a lot about the body, Graham would be able to tell you about all the things that are going off in your body and the tension and all those types of things. So when you use the word fight, it's like this. When you use the word resolve, it's like this. It's almost pointed. There's a determination in the way. So if you're fighting your way up a hill on a long run, for example, goodness me, all of a sudden you're tensing everything, the lungs, the diaphragm and all that stuff. And I'm not going off your point, but when you've got a resolve that I'm going to hit this hill and I'm going to make it, and your hands are out, you're open, you're relaxed, and you're just pushing towards it, all of a sudden, and this is this first part of the answer to your question, all of a sudden your resolve to the cause of achievement is different to your fight, the doubt of maybe I'm not going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that happens when you fight, and I said this to a lady whose unfortunately 6-year-old daughter was disrespected in Europe, and she said to me, she said, Steve, I've got to fight for my little girl. And I went, no, you don't want your little girl to see the vibrations in you. Because again, if I'm doing this, and I'm not boxing, but if I'm walking down the road of life and this is me, it's not as engaging as walking down the road of life, still having a cause, still having a concern, still having a battle. I'm one state away from what's happening in Melbourne, in Victoria.
Right.
And every time someone from Victoria comes into Queensland, all of a sudden there's an outbreak. So from my point of view, I'm very conscious of that, but I don't go, oh, God, what am I going to do? I need to make sure I wear a mask at the supermarket. What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden that tension then radiates in your soul. It radiates in your heart. And the only way that tension radiates in the soul and the heart is to shut it down. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, if we take this concept of cause, this is a new pen, don't you dare go white on me. In this context of a cause, you can't be an aid, an assistance, and most of all, an example to someone if you're so boiled up and bound up in fight, as I said in the opening that Peter kindly put together a few weeks ago now. If you're bound up, you'll live a bound up life. If you're boundless, you'll live a boundless life. So when you're trying to aid, assist, and be an example based on the resolve of you getting to the top of the hill, the resolve of you helping someone, if your attitude is towards, Steve, how do I get rid of all of this angst? How do I get rid of all of this it's energy that's negative. You can't be an aid. You can't be an assistance. And the biggest thing of all, you can't be an example. The number one thing that people want when they're looking and reaching out to someone for help, the number one thing when people like me and you are reaching out towards someone, they want the example. And Jane from the Sede Angels tells me this every single day. They want you to be calm but assertive.
Yes.
And if every single time you think, well, Steve, going back to your question, how can I be there for people? Well, you can't be there for people if your heart and soul is shut down. You can't be there for people if you're not calm and you're not assertive. And if you're not calm, your assertiveness is going to come towards conflict and hostility.
Correct.
So if you go back to my point, what is the resolve to the cause of what you're trying to do? What is it? And don't fight for it. Have a resolve that you're going to fulfill it. And if you look at the opening comments about soul shifters, that everything about soul shifters is to help people and train people, coach people, mentor people, be an example by being the best Stephen DeSade that I can be, to give people a resolve to their cause, whether that's someone who's a realtor who also has a great faith, as I know you do, whether that's a mother in Europe of a 6-year-old child, whether that's a lady who's actually adopted a child with some recurring trauma situation, whether that's a lady who a couple of years ago lost her husband. My example is to be an assistant and an aid for the simple cause I refuse to allow people to doubt themselves. I just won't allow it.
Right.
As I said last week, if I'm walking down the road and I see someone anywhere on the road doubting themselves, I'll do something by my example to interrupt them. And sometimes my example is to smile. You can't help anyone if you're busy being an example of fight.
Correct. I 100%, Steve. And again, this happened 30 years ago. Yep. So that ease of not fighting any longer, I have grown spiritually. And I thank God every day for that, for opening. All I did was pray that that person would go away. And you know what, Steve? That person literally went away, gave up all rights and went away. So that is when my soul and my spirit has really opened up. Again, I take on everyone's pain now, and I feel so exhausted where I don't know if I can. I know I can keep on going. It's just I don't know how much more I can give. And I want to give.
You don't know how much more.
I know I have more to give. I just don't know how much exhaustion physically it does, because it does. It physically makes me exhausted.
It does. You're running up and I'm using that analogy without being disrespectful about running up a hill. But
right.
When you tension everything in your body, and I was never a great long distance runner, but I understood this. When you're running up a hill or you're running and you're tense, everything in your body gets tense, and then your mental, your reflection on how you're feeling starts interpreting what you're thinking, and your thoughts become things.
Okay.
My best advice for you is forgiveness is a commitment. It's not a feeling. I was told that by a gentleman whose childhood sweetheart wife, 18 months after they got married, went to Vietnam for 4 days and got stabbed in the chest in a night market and murdered. And he said, I spent 5 days going around Europe, 5 years constantly waking up. And as he said, with some profound words, instead of at 29 going looking for furniture for our baby, I went coffin shopping at 29 for the woman I thought would be my partner for life. And he said to me, he said, Steve, you've got to stop thinking that forgiveness is a feeling, it's a commitment. Judy, you've got to make a commitment to forgive yourself and release yourself to go and be the example of aid and assistance to others. Because the true form of faith is to have a commitment beyond yourself. So when you're saying, oh, Steve, I'm a person of faith and all those types of things, and then at the same time, and I love you to bits, Gorgeous, so this is not said, I'm being confronting, but I'm doing it from a place of very deep felt heart for you. On one hand, you're telling me that you have a strong faith for others. You have a strong faith in your belief, which I respect. And then on the other hand, you're telling me, oh, Steve, I'm just exhausted.
True. Yeah.
So what's happened in the middle is your inability to forgive by way of a commitment. Because a year later, the gentleman in question said that the Vietnam government had sent him a letter to say that they'd executed the guy. And he said it didn't bring Judy back. It didn't change anything. And he said, Steve, I forgave him because I understood what he took from me was more than what they took from him. He said, I made a commitment for the rest of my life. And he wrote a book called The Widower's Manual about how to help people go through that journey. Judy, if you've got to make a decision, there's a fork in the road, which is part of the... Ask me what it is that I do, Judy.
What is it that you do, Steve? You make others...
No, I'm a universal courier that's been sent to answer your doubt.
Oh. And I believe it through that answer that you just had given me.
Yeah, I'm a universal courier that's been sent to answer your doubt. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with the spirit of my belief and love for you. You are in a fork in the road situation. You're either going to continue to fight, or you're going to make a forgiveness commitment and then actually start becoming the example of the faith you claim that you are. I know that you are, But you can't tell me that you have faith for other people, but you're getting exhausted doing it. You only get exhausted by the things that you're not totally convicted to. And your level of conviction is currently interrupted by your inability to forgive.
Forgive myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. And I don't want to do this publicly, but forgive yourself for whatever you think those things are. So for everyone that's listening, and this is inspired by Judy and the faith she has in herself and her beliefs, learn how to make a commitment to forgive, because if you don't, you will lead a bound up life. You will lead a life of fight, and your example will be conflict. Your example will be hostility. And it may not be in the street. It may not be as brutal as some of the things we've seen with knees on necks, God forbid. But your example of the resistance of people being able to come towards you, to be embraced by you, for you to be an example of the faith of the human spirit, that my job is to make you believe in yourself. And as I've always said, and I said this a couple of shows back, my job is to walk down the road of life, and my mantra is, most people I meet, I love them more than they do, but if they keep around to Sede, I'll help them to catch up.
Yes.
What would the world be like if we all walked down the road and total strangers, and our attitude, not so much in our expression in verbally, but our expression in how we engage them is, I love you more than you do, but I'll help you catch up. What kind of world would we live in? And yes, it's utopia. And yes, it's going to be hard to achieve, but I'm not prepared to stop trying.
Me neither, Steve. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Judy, that was a powerful question, Judy. You caught us. You caught me. I was like, whoa. And I'm so sorry to hear your story. I mean, I did not know any of this before. And thank you for sharing it and being so vulnerable and open about that. Please stick around.
Yes, sir.
Two secs, Pete.
Sure.
Very, very quickly, Judy, and you may have seen this on a recent post. There was a young lady that came into a workshop that we were doing. We were teaching people how to be on camera for a particular book. Hey, Charles. And this young lady came in and she talked about being in extreme sports. Pretty young thing in her early 20s, beautiful young girl, had a lovely demeanor about her. And she sat there and said, well, I don't really care. I do extreme sports and I don't really care. And she goes, I don't really care if the parachute doesn't open. And I'm going, wow. All of a sudden, our discussion about how to be on camera turned into the video called Infinite Possibilities. And what she said, that 6 years earlier, her husband had died. And the infinite possibilities of her life finished with that relationship. And what I said to her is, when your life is done, whatever that next place for you is, heaven or whatever that next place for you is, what are you going to tell your husband about the life you led because it was taken from him? So in the context, and I say this with deep, deep respect to you, you need to journey through the rest of your life as an example of forgiven faith, because when you are reunited, you can look back on your life and go, look what I did with the pain that you gave me.
Yes,
the
sir.
pain of our departure from each other. Look what I did. It's wrong that you had to go through what you did. I'm so sorry to hear that. But you've got two choices at the end of your life at the time of reunion: to actually live in honor of that pain and overcome and forgive it, or to live the rest of your life exhausted. You're too beautiful to live the rest of your life exhausted. Thanks, Pete.
Powerful
Thank you.
stuff. Okay,
Thank you.
stick around, Judy. Thank you so much. Wow, that's some great insight there, Stephen. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to add to that right now. That's emotional stuff. So thank you, Judy, for that. That was amazing. Okay, so I mean, soul shifting. I mean, if that doesn't shift someone's soul, that story alone can move us in different directions of how people have to deal with trauma, tragedy, all that kind of stuff. It just moves you, changes you.
You've got two choices in life. You can look back into your past and see the burdens of the past and place them as hurdles to make excuses from for the rest of your life, or you can look back at the burdens of the past and place them as platforms to serve from.
I like that one. Yeah.
And you have a choice. I could actually tell people about woe is me with divorce and suicide and losing all my houses and being Mr. Fancy Pants in England. I've shared that from time to time. But I actually understand what it's like to fly into Monte Carlo and also be bankrupt. I understand what it's like to live an amazing life and then also try and commit suicide. And to me, they're the bookends of me being able to speak with that level of conviction, because I know what it's like to not be so unforgiving that you drink a bottle of gin, rent a convertible, put the roof down, and then tear the car in half because you're trying to kill yourself. I know what that level of unforgiveness is like. So for everyone listening, stop thinking the journey of your life is not an example and a lesson for someone else.
Yes. Yes. You never know who's watching. You never know who you're going to inspire. Okay, Randy, I think we have this amazing. Listen, this guy got headset. He's here to rock and roll.
I know.
Yeah, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. There he is. Hey, Randy, how are you, my friend?
There he is.
I'm doing fantastic. Oh my goodness, you guys! I'm listening to this. I'm listening to Judy. I listen to Larry. Listening to you talk about soul shifting. I mean, you're telling my story. You're speaking my language. I mean, this resonates like you wouldn't believe. My why in life, really, and I haven't used the term soul shifter, but really my why in life is to be a soul shifter, to inspire other people to be kind. To inspire people to dare to embrace kindness as a means of restoring light, hope, love, unity, and peace to our world.
Yep.
If we ever needed it, we need it now, especially here in the United States.
That is
so. I mean, this has been fantastic. I'm sitting here listening.
Well, you found the right show. You found the right.
I did.
We found the right show.
The right show found me. So both goes both ways.
There you go.
Well, we're going to thank Michelle for that, because part of the whole soul shifter, they had what we call #the Sede Soul Shifters. Part of that is for people who come on the show to actually extend an invitation to have, because everyone keeps saying, oh, it's like a moment, Steve. It's this life-changing moment, which is very kind. I understand this is just a flat-out gift. Whatever's going on right here is a flat-out gift, and I won the lottery to get it. My job now is to share this with everybody. Sure. And the best way of sharing it is to say, hey, Michelle, is there anyone that you think deserves a moment and the gift's on you? So my understanding is, Randy, that you're here because Michelle extended you the moment, the gift of her moment she wanted you to have.
I am. And I can't thank Michelle enough, and I can't thank you guys enough for the opportunity I have to be here and for the effort that you're making to put this together. It's a great platform. It's a great opportunity. So I'm just, grateful to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll leave you with Stephen. You go ahead with your question. Right?
It's interesting. You talk about soul shifting, and I'm in the mode right now. I wrote a book called The Kindness Giver's Formula.
Yep.
And it was all geared towards inspiring individuals to dare to embrace kindness, to ingrain the daily intentional habit of kindness giving.
Mm.
And but I'm also shifting towards kindness leadership coaching. And one of the things that's interesting in business, business leaders understand the need to adopt a win-win attitude, a what's in it for we type mindset.
Mm.
My question is how can I get organizational leaders to get past what I call Voldemort syndrome and dare to use the K word, meaning kindness, and embrace kindness in business and leverage the positive economic power of kindness, both internally and externally, to create continuous bottom line increases? I know that's a big, long question.
I know. I thought Larry was Larry did the uppercut with Edison, and you've rolled up with the left hook with that. Judy just hugged me. So in the gold medal position of the guest right now, it's Judy, because she hasn't uppercut or left hooked me yet.
Well,
that's cool. No. I love it. Can I ask you a question? Jump on the board, Pete.
You bet.
What's the outcome of kindness?
The outcome of kindness, there's two. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about personally or professionally.
Oh, you just asked me a question, Steve. How do I actually get business people and leaders to actually use the K word? Business people and leaders are obsessed with this, and they call it time and profit.
So the outcome of kindness in business is continuous bottom line increases. I believe that. And here's why I say that. in business, we all understand, and in life, success is built on trustworthy relationships. If you don't have trustworthy relationships, you're not going to get very far.
Couldn't agree more. Yep.
At all, right? And there's a key ingredient to trustworthy relationships, and that's connection. Being able to connect to people's hearts, being able to get past the persona and connect directly to their hearts. The key ingredient to connection is kindness.
Yep.
If you don't have kindness, if you don't treat people with respect, compassion, if you don't listen well, then you're not going to connect to their hearts, and you're not going to be able to build a trustworthy relationship. So
no, I get it. I'm not being evasive or trying to challenge you, but I'm trying to get into the mind of a business person, because you know what? Before COVID, you didn't work from home. You worked at an office.
Actually, I did. I've been working from home for several years, but yeah.
But I was doing home working back in 2001, 2002 when I was in England and stuff. You understand the point.
Yeah.
We had people on radio stations saying, oh, there's a thing called Zoom. You can do video conferencing. Are you kidding me? But that's only happened. So the end result is now the personable nature of work has gone through the roof. Yeah. So everything was about bottom line and profits and everything. Now everything's about empathy and kindness, and how are you going to actually work from home and still run your kids and all those types of things and homeschool your kids? How are you going to do that? All of that has now got, I believe, the opportunity for you to dialogue more than ever with business leaders, because business leaders now are actually confronting the time and money bottom line, and now they're getting the people bit, and they're almost not sure how to do it.
Okay. Yeah. So here's what I would say. With you driving on or going back to the subject of business relationships, of relationships, when you treat your employees with kindness and respect, when they feel like they have a voice, when you have a well-defined cause, when they understand that, what happens to their creativity, their productivity, their innovation, their loyalty? All those things go up.
Yep, absolutely.
They go up. So when those things go up, and one of the other things that goes up, they treat your external clients with great respect, and they work hard. They want to please them. We want to take good care of them because they believe in your company. They believe in what they're doing. When they take good care of your clients, what happens? Their client, what does your client do for you? Your clients do for you. Your opportunities go up with your clients.
I get that, Randy. But what was your question to me? Your question was, how do you? I get all of that, and I. We're in the choir. We're singing to an empty. We're singing to an empty cathedral. I understand what you're saying.
Sure.
So I understand that. Going back to Larry, I understand the vocabulary, but where's the framework and community buy-in? Because the community you're trying to engage are business leaders, and business leaders think of outcomes. I get all of that stuff you just said, but I'm going back to your question because it sounds like great rhetoric, and it's not rhetoric. It's true. Yeah. But how are you getting that? Because it's almost at the do it this way. At the bottom of business is transacting.
Yeah.
Then there's transforming, and then there's transcending. Most people think that COVID made us transform to be home working. No, it didn't. It transcended us to go to a point that I not only needed to work from home, I needed to actually homeschool my kids, plus understand whether I'd keep my job, plus understand whether I could pay my mortgage. Oh, and by the way, wondering whether I caught anything at the supermarket.
Sure.
So down here is the whole thing about transacting time and money, which equals profit.
Yeah.
Up here is the whole concept of kindness, because kindness is the foundational commitment of the human race to engage each other.
Sure.
So this part in here, first thing you need to do is your vocabulary down here needs to be related to what they're talking about as you take them on the journey from transforming to transcending. And right now, every single business is trying to work out how to do that, because all of a sudden the time and money transaction of your business in the state of Victoria here in Australia, for example, right now, almost every business is closed.
Yeah.
Not some, all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the end result is businesses are now going, well, how do I do my time and money transacting? Well, you don't, because how are you going to do this? So one of the things you want to do is, as I said, what's your vocabulary, what's your framework, and what's your community, and you build it that way.
And the first thing you do is your vocab, Randy, has got to be around the way that they speak, and then take them with you. Otherwise,
and that's where I struggle with that vocabulary, getting them past.
Yeah. So to go to your question, you said, Steve, how do I get these people to listen? And then you got on the pulpit and started preaching to me about kindness. Said with said with love and respect, because I get it.
Sure. No, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not being disrespectful, because we could do this show of inspiring insights and me sitting here and you sitting there, and we're just two talking heads. And at the end of it, good. What did we achieve? So what I do, I'm constantly going to frameworks.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
So, when we close the show, I'll talk about the soul shifters and what's happening next. But in terms of you need to create a framework, because your vocab and your passion for kindness is unquestionable. But because you don't have a framework to take me on the journey up, as a business leader, I'm just going to think, oh, okay, he's one of those awareness, touchy-feely guys.
And I actually have a kindness culture framework that I've created that's based on eight areas that organizations can assess against to determine, okay, how well am I leveraging kindness within my organization right now?
Yep.
And what are the areas I'm doing well in? What are the areas I'm not doing so well in? And they could determine where the gaps are so that we can create a remediation plan to address those gaps. And then they can see, okay, so how is implementing this going to bring me what I call a return on kindness?
Yep.
And lead to the kind of bottom line increases that I'm talking about without having to harp on the bottom line all the time.
But you're probably going to have to harp on it more than you do at the moment.
Yep.
Because my suspicion with yourself, I could have written that bigger, Pete. My suspicion with yourself is that even though your framework is there, it's same with the question. Hey, Steve, here's my question about how do I connect? And then straight away you started, and there's nothing wrong with it. But this is what I call the 3 reasons why every human being, whether they're a business leader or whether they're just an individual, whether a parent, whatever, people are wanting to avoid pain, gain pleasure, and learn how to do one or the other. And I call it ow, wow, and how to. So one of the things in the context of this vocab thing that we've talked about with you, your vocabulary, what is the pain that the business leaders are currently in? What is the gain that you can actually help them provide? And your framework sits in here. Your issue right now, Randy, is how do you actually speak to their pain whilst you transfer them over to your framework?
Yeah.
And this journey here is the how-to. So if I do this with red, if red's good, A is the number one thing you should focus on. B is what you've already got. And C will take care of itself. This is the biggest thing you need to focus on. Because case in point, you asked me the question and you immediately started telling me about your framework without linking it into this. So your first thing is, what is the pain a business is in? And try not to use the language of framework in your opening engagement.
Until I find out what the pain is. Okay, what's your pain? And then I can relate the pain to the framework.
Yeah, so what you're going to do is this is my question, Steve. I've got, like in you, this is Randy's question. Steve, I've got this pain because I can't connect into business. And before I could answer you, you started getting on the pulpit and lecturing me. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully, buddy.
No, I appreciate that. You're not the first one to tell me that. So I need to hear it.
In a really short period of time, I'm trying to do this as courteous as I can, but I'm doing you no service if I just take you for a dance and neither of us like the music.
This is great. This is fantastic.
So one of the things that you need to do is, what is their pain? Because you're going to motivate someone to engage if you understand their pain, understand what they're trying to gain, and then give them a framework of how to. Why do you think we have a live show with me on a whiteboard? It's not just because I can do this whiteboard stuff. I'm constantly going to frameworks, constantly. This is what your pain is. So even when Larry asked me his question about Edison, I didn't necessarily break down the quote. It was a great quote. I started talking about the pain, gain, and how to. When Judy asked me the same thing, said with great respect to the very delicate nature of her question, I talked about the pain and the gain and the how-to. And the how-to is, what are you going to do at reunion at the end of your life about the beauty of what you gained from the pain of what you had to go through? So go back to you, Randy. You've got to do for all your focus and stuff we're doing inside of Soul Shifters that I'll talk about at the end of the show. All your focus should be on not diving into the rhetoric of what your framework is, but diving in and engaging them.
That's great.
Because kindness,
I love that.
Kindness is made up of three things, and I put it on the board. Kindness is made up of your sincerity, which is stopping long enough to listen, your empathy, which is stopping long enough to understand, and your ability to communicate, both of the above. And right now, you're so busy telling me about what you're good at and what you passionately believe and is absolutely needed, that you're telling me about the game before I understand why I want to engage you. So your number one thing is in here. And we can do some more stuff on this, and it will be inside of Soul Shifters. And again, I'll explain that at the end. And it's not an upsell. For everyone listening, it's not an upsell. So please don't misunderstand that.
No, man. And you know, I gotta jump in, Randy. Let me tell you something, Randy. I so resonate with what you just had. I thought I saw a couple of aha moments, right? But I'll tell you why. Is because I've worked on something. I won't go into it, but just want to share with you a connection point there. Is that I've been working on an idea called the Philanthropy Channel for a long, long time. So picture a cable television network about philanthropy, the concept, people doing good in the world, all that stuff. And what I found was, in this journey and through that journey, was that, just to what Stephen said, the real goal, in order for me to reach my goal of helping people with philanthropy, was to have this television channel exist. But while I was going through that, I would jump very quickly into why, we needed to have this. And I got right on my pulpit and talking about, people needed to see people doing good things and all that stuff. And I didn't really address the idea of why I believe they were in some sort of pain or need of seeing a channel as this. So I jumped right into my passion about it, versus taking them through some idea that, hey, here's the pain of philanthropy. We need to grow it, build it, all that kind of stuff. And here's the way we can channel it. So anyway, listen, bottom line is, your passion for this is so required today. A passion for kindness and a passion for this conversation. So thank you for even just, having the courage and vulnerability to tell people that, listen, yeah, you can bring the K word into it. It's cool to be kind, man. It's cool to be kind. Okay.
And I so appreciate that framework that you just drew out, Stephen. It's interesting. I knew that stuff. I know what you said to me, but seeing it the way you framed it, it really hit home. Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. Feel, this is life coaching stuff. Feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way. Let me tell you what I found. I feel your pain. Others have felt it, and I showed them some gain. Let me show you how I found out to solve it. So feel is pain, felt is gain, found is how to. I know how you, so your communication is, I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way. Let me tell you what I found. And when you get into this thing about others have felt the same way, you get into story. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to dig down into story and how you tell epic stories. But I know how you feel. Guess what that is? Sincerity, because I'm listening. Others have felt the same way. Empathy. Let me tell you what I found. Communication. What did I just say? Kindness was. Sincere, empathetic communication. I know how you feel. Others have felt the same. Well, let me tell you what I found. What you're really doing in their brain is go, I feel your pain. I can show you some gain, and here's how to do it. Pete.
Wonderful.
Oh, Randy. I think he just dropped the mic on us. He dropped the mic. He dropped the mic on us. He did. So.
It was great.
He dropped the mic on us. I'm going to bring in the rest of our guests. I'm so glad you guys stuck around. Judy, Larry, Randy, man, oh man, this has been just an awesome show so far. And, we wanted you to stick around because, first of all, thank you and so on. But we know that throughout the show, we're all hearing and listening to each other and everyone's ideas and so on. So I just want to quickly, before I throw it to Stephen to finish up for today, can we go around and maybe if you can share maybe just a quick aha of something that popped out today in this conversation. So Judy, would you mind leading us off here and just tell us?
Not at all. I just want to say to both of you, thank you for coming into my heart and allowing me to meet you both there. Thank you.
Very kind.
And that was from my Stephen's quotes. I arrive in your heart, and I will wait until I meet you there. And I thank you.
I arrive into your heart. That's people often ask me, how do you create rapport so quickly? Easy. I arrive into your heart and wait for you to meet me there.
Yes.
And by the time you get to my heart, I've taken off to your soul.
Oh, thank you for that, Judy. I so appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Larry.
You know, I think as business people over the years, we've grown comfortable or focusing on creating frameworks and maturity models and methodology and so forth. So what jumped out at me really is the strength of vocabulary and being able to put into words and communicate with people that in fact you are a sincere person, you have empathy for what they've done, and you have enough life experience, or you've observed others who have experienced transformation to be able to show you how they did that. And how all of that integrates together in a holistic fashion was fabulous, Stephen. Thank you again.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. Thank you.
Gee, that was so well said, Larry. Thank you, brother. That was fantastic.
You should be here.
I know. I got to get a whiteboard for Larry. I'm going to get a whiteboard.
Get a whiteboard for Larry.
I'm going to get a whiteboard for Larry. I'm going to take the giant live sign off of Randy's forehead there for you, my friend.
Randy, I am alive.
You are alive. So Randy, beautiful last question and great conversation about kindness. And listen, my hat's off to you because listen, kindness is cool, man. So I appreciate that conversation. Give us a little aha from maybe some of the things you heard here today.
It's what a great thing to be reminded about the importance of a Coveyism, a Stephen Coveyism. First seek to understand, then to be understood. If I want to be able to connect to the hearts of the leaders I'm trying to work with, then I have to understand their pain before I can, get to the gain, go to gain and the other how-to part. So it's important to remember that order.
Yes.
First seek to understand, then to be understood.
And I'll tell you, I just want to make sure you, and I know Stephen's going to say it again, and probably as he finishes up here, but again, not being dismissive to the idea that you jump right to what you're passionate about. That's if anything, I can relate to that because that's what I certainly tend to do with anything I'm trying to share as an idea. I jump right to my passion before I look for the pain and a resolution of a problem. So thank you for sharing that. And by the way, we have a special little guest to jump, not little, a really big guest. I shouldn't say little. There's a big guest to jump and join us here. Look at who's joining us. This is Michelle, everybody.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey,
Hi, Michelle.
And Michelle, just so everyone knows who's joining on this show, Michelle was a guest on a previous show with Stephen, and was kind enough to reach out to some of her community and some of her network to say, hey, maybe you should jump on the show and have a moment with Stephen and have the experience of live with Stephen Sede. So thank you, Michelle, for that. Did you watch the show? And tell us, if you can, just share us briefly, very quickly, why you thought it was a great idea to have some of your colleagues or some people in your network to come on the show.
I watched the show, and for me, these two, Judy and Randy, my soul resonated with them, their intent and how they think and how they feel. Immediately when the opportunity came for me to invite somebody, they were the first people that came to mind. And actual, Stephen said, hey, Michelle, I understand that Judy is connected with you. And I said, oh, I'm already on that. I already got that. I get where you're thinking and what you're doing, and she's going to be invited because she's an incredible woman, and I have the sense about it even though I haven't met her. And that was the same with Randy. I have a great sense of how I can connect with people even though I haven't met them at all. And they have the soulful sense about them, and I resonate with that, and I love to give. And it was the best way for me to give to them, to have an opportunity like I did, which has been incrementally and in huge factors life-changing in lots of areas of my life.
Wow, that's amazing.
So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to let Stephen jump in a second. And just for clarity wise, you're right. Judy and Randy were part of your network. Larry was something through Stephen's conversation, I believe, and so on. So,
Yeah.
so I think I said that. Yeah.
Don't change anything just yet, Pete. Sorry, mate. Keep going, but don't change anything. I just got to say something to everyone before you go down onto the board. But keep going, buddy. Sorry to jump in.
No. I just want to make sure that I might have said it differently that way. So thank you for that, Michelle. Because again, Judy, your story, we so appreciate the fact that you brought this rawness and realness to a question that sadly, actually, a lot of other parents and family members have dealt with, sadly. So thank you for sharing that, because you guaranteed somebody was listening to this or will hear that, and it will make a difference in their lives. And Larry, thank you so much for reminding us that, like you said, with a great idea, a little perspiration if you don't do that. And I love the way that Stephen, I hope everyone goes back on this show and takes a picture of that framework you built around that phrase, because to your point, it's great to have all these wonderful little sayings and so on. I don't mean to belittle that. I'm just saying it's wonderful when there's framework to it that you can put it into practice and so on. And Randy, man, you keep going with your kindness, brother. I love it. It's just, hey, listen, kindness is cool, man. We need more of that. We need a lot more of that. So I hope you guys will stick around here. I'm going to throw it to Stephen to finish out the show.
Leave it on this for 2 secs, Pete.
Sure.
So you know, the reason Michelle's here is Randy and Judy's opportunity to say thanks, because the only reason you're here is she alerted me to the fact that you should be. So just so you know, Larry, and to Judy and to Randy, part of what happens next is a thing called a movement of moments. Over the next day or two things will happen. You'll be invited into the Sede Soul Shifters group, which is on LinkedIn. The second thing that will happen is you'll actually be sent a little tiny landing page, which will be your gift of a moment to whoever you want to invite on the show. If you want to, do it. If you don't want to, you don't. It's entirely up to you. Because I want to create a movement of moments. And I want your moment, Judy, and your moment, Randy, to be because of Michelle's moment. And the fact that I get to sort of make the moments, that's the secondary thing. The primary thing is I want you to go out, and there might be a colleague, there might be a family friend, there might be someone in need. I want you, and Andrea's talking about a particular lady, I want you to make someone believe in themselves because you believe in them enough for them to have this. That's what I want. So over the next, and the other thing with Soul Shifters, I'm turning it into a training academy inside of LinkedIn. So what's going to happen inside of Soul Shifters, I will drop content which will be training. So because people often say to me, Steve, this was really great, I wish I could have more. I'm going to drop into the Soul Shifters group training on what to do, detailed training, right down to, Larry, how you do storytelling. What are the 3 elements of storytelling and the 3 elements beyond that? How do you speak like this, Steve? Where do you get all this vocabulary from? How do you build rapport so quickly? All of that stuff in the next 5 weeks is going to come out.
Fantastic.
You are a gift.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Well, you guys stick around if you don't mind. If you please stick around if you wish. I'm just going to throw you in the green because I definitely want Stephen. He's got some amazing notes here. So Stephen, I'm going to make sure that people get to see everything you say. Let me put on the other screen here for you.
You might have to go full, dude.
Yeah, we're definitely going to go full.
I did it. Judy, you said heart. My advice to you from the bottom of my heart: arrive into your heart and let you in. You're so focused on the heart of everyone else, you forgot yours, gorgeous, and I need you to actually look after your heart and then invite me into your heart. So number 1, Judy, you said about heart. Arrive into your heart, Judy, and let you in. You deserve it. You've waited long enough on the outside. You deserve to be in your own heart. Larry, you talked about vocab, which I think was really great. Speak your structured kindness in the context of the work that you do. And I know you're very senior from the little bit I've seen on your profile and the title. Your vocabulary needs to be your structured kindness. And as we set up on the board, kindness is sincerity, empathy, and the way you communicate. And then, Randy, understand your truth by engaging in theirs. And their first truth at the point of first contact is going to be their desire to get out of pain and try and get some gain. And if you're engaging in if what you're doing at the moment is your truth is engaging in what you believe in, and you're actually preaching to them before you've actually converted them to a believer. That's what I heard. Be in your heart with the vocabulary that will allow others to understand. Make sure you're in your heart speaking with structured kindness, and engage everyone's truth by being an example of yours. Thanks, Peter.
Gosh, oh man, that is so. Do we? I got to come up with a better ending for this show, because every time we do this, I'm just sitting there going like, "What was that? Like, what was that?" Like, you just summed up everything so greatly, and I so appreciate that. It was just so fun to watch it unfold, and to watch how people sort of gravitated and leaned into to what you were saying. I've always believed this about content, as a content creator and so on. There's kind of lean in content and lean back content. So it's like when you're watching TV, you lean back and you kind of watch it. With yours, you're kind of just leaning in and going, what was that? It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. So Stephen, thank you so much again. Thanks to all of our guests. We appreciate everyone showing up for this show, Soul Shifters. And again, watch for more of what Stephen does, especially on LinkedIn, because there's a lot of great connections that are happening. All of the people that have been on the show so far, even today, through LinkedIn. So please reach out to them as well and learn more about what they're doing, because again, this is what we're here to do. We're here to connect. We're here to bring people together. Stephen, such a pleasure, my friend. Such a pleasure, my friend. We're going to do this again. I tell you, everybody, we're going to do this again.
Bye-bye.
Right? Bye-bye. See you, everybody.